All right, if you guys are just tuning in, Facebook, Instagram, Zoom, YouTube, wherever you're watching right now, I want to welcome you to our weekly wealth creation courses. I do these every single Friday. And this weekend is Independence Day, right? Independence Day, the day we celebrate our nation's independence. And so I want to talk to you today about financial freedom and what that actually means. Now, let me get Instagram up and running really quick. Boom, we got to get Instagram. Okay, awesome. We got Instagram. Perfect. So if you guys are just tuning in for the first time, thank you for joining me. My name is Jerry. I'm the owner and founder of Wealth Dynamics. And what we do is we help people become financially free. Okay. So one of my main goals is help financially educate people, right? Education, understanding, knowledge on how money works, becoming financially literate. I help people become wealthy, meaning they have passive income that exceeds their expenses, savings, and taxes. I help people navigate their economic futures with certainty, and I help people invest in their communities around them to help create more prosperity around them, right? So we're approaching quickly 4th of July weekend. Starts tomorrow. Tonight, if you're a Friday is the weekend kind of person. But tomorrow we celebrate our nation's freedom, right? Freedom from Great Britain, 1776. It's been several hundred years now. And so as we're starting this tonight, I was thinking about, man, what should I talk about today? What are the things that I should cover? And I really want to cover freedom. Okay, I love freedom. Freedom is something that for some reason it's been in my blood for a long time. It gets me excited, it gets me worked up. I'm passionate about it. And one of the questions that I often ask myself is, how free am I? Right? How free am I? Because if we talk about Independence Day, that is freedom from Great Britain. That's it. That's all that means. It means that we're no longer part of Great Britain, which is cool, right? But in the big scope of things, it doesn't really have any relevancy today. Like, they're not standing over us, threatening to take over our country. If it came down to it, we could probably take over theirs now, right? But it's more of a memorial reminiscing on when we weren't free as a country, when we weren't free. Now, a lot of us may know this, some of us may not. The reason why we started a revolution against Great Britain was over taxation. Taxation meaning a government taking a percentage of our income or a percentage of the things we purchase, right? So the colonies in the United States, we got sick of it. They were taxing us to death on things. They weren't representing us. They weren't helping us. There was no value, in other words. We were being charged and not getting anything. So we finally said, enough. Let's actually like declare independence. Let's go fight these guys and let's go get our freedom back so that we don't have taxation anymore. Now, the ironic thing is the taxes we were paying to them back in the day are nowhere near as bad as what we're paying now, right? So we broke up with Britain over taxes. Actually, I can't believe I didn't do this. I just repositioned my camera. This is epic. Instagram, you guys can see me straight on now. So we broke up with Great Britain over taxes, and the taxes we had back then were nothing compared to the taxes we have today, right? And so what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about, what does freedom actually mean in today's context? Okay, what does it actually mean in today's context? Because all of us should be thinking about this tomorrow. Like, that's a big thing to think about. Freedom, those that gave their lives for our freedom, our country today, like in relation to that, what do things look like? But even more important, our lives today. Okay. And so for me, I want to give you guys some background on myself. I've always been interested in freedom. My dad was in the military for 24 years total. My little brother joined the military. My older brother joined the military. I didn't. Have several brothers that also did. And so it's something that's in my family. We've had a lot of like military people, very patriotic family. And my dad, a couple years ago, he did that ancestry.com thing. Okay, you guys are going to love this if you know me. My dad did the ancestry.com and kind of went back on our lineage. And basically, he traced it all the way back, right? And I've always wondered, like, why am I so passionate about freedom? Like, why do I get worked up? Why do I start a business where I focus on helping other people become financially free? Why does that get me fired up the way it does? And what happened is my dad did the ancestry thing, traced it back, and part of me is Scottish descent, and he traced it all the way back to a clan in Scotland called the Wallace clan. Okay, you guys have heard of William Wallace, Braveheart, right? That's also where I got my mooning skills in high school. But that's where my ancestry branched out from. Now he kind of went further into the future and then found out that a lot of my ancestors in like the 1700s, late 1700s, they were patriots and revolutionaries. Now there's the group they were part of is called the Bullet Boys, I think. And basically they got kicked out of the Patriot Army because they were too rambunctious. Like they would do just the dumbest stuff, like put a board between each other's legs and like snipe at each other from a distance to see who could hit the board. So not smart things, right? And but it goes to show, like, my family was always in line with some kind of like fighting for freedom. That's in my ancestry. It goes all the way back. That's why I'm passionate about it. Now, when we became a nation, during the war, the Revolutionary War, we actually had our own currency. Okay, the colonies had their own currency, meaning we had our own dollars, our own money system. We stopped using Great Britain's. And what happened is the cost of the Revolutionary War actually rendered our currency useless because they printed so much of it. The at the time, the colonists, the patriots, they didn't have like gold and mining and resources. We were kind of like almost being evicted. So we basically had just the ability to create currency, print paper dollars, and distribute those paper dollars so that we had an economy at that time. Now, the cost of the war forced them to print more and more money. When I say printing money, I mean a dollar doesn't come out of nowhere. Someone has to actually create the dollar. Today, we have a group called the United States Treasury and another group called the Federal Reserve Bank. That's who creates the currency. Back then, it was literally like George Washington and the boys in the Patriot Army, like in that government system, they would print more and more currency in order to fund the war. And if you print enough currency, you dilute the value of it. So if I have, just like with my coffee, I've talked about this before, if I start filling my cup up with water, it becomes less and less coffee, less and less strong, less and less flavorful. It's at a certain point, it's no longer coffee. It's really water with some coffee in it. Same thing happens with currency, right? So if we have a currency, let's say it's backed by gold, and I start printing paper dollars and I'm not increasing the gold, I'm just increasing the paper dollars. Eventually, if I divide the amount of paper dollars I have by the original gold that I had in the first place, the dollar per gold ratio is not the same anymore. Right? And that's what happened during the Revolutionary War. We basically blew our currency up. And the byproduct of that is, as we became a country, we had two different parties. Okay, and I'm not talking about just political, I'm talking about with the economy, with the banking system. We had one group of people that they were voting for something called a central bank. Okay, this was back in the 1700s. There was a group of people, patriots in our country, like when we first started, they said, hey, the United States needs its own bank. The United States needs its own bank. And what they wanted was, they wanted the bank to be able to control the currency of the nation and print more and more and more of it. You had another group that said, hell no, we don't want the United States to have its own bank. We want the banks to be private. We want the currency to be private. And we want the government to have no hand in the currency system. Okay, if you research this, you'll see. And so what happened is, there was this power struggle back and forth for a number of years on the United States having a central bank, and then the central bank being defunded and disappearing, and them having a central bank again, and then being defunded and disappearing. One of my favorite presidents to go look back on, because of his economic stance, was Andrew Jackson. Okay, Andrew Jackson was 100% against the United States having a central government run bank. Okay, he had several assassination attempts on his life over it. On his gravestone, it says, "I beat the banks," because he ended the United States Bank. In his presidency, he got rid of it. The budget was balanced and our debt was paid off all at the same time. That's never been done before. Okay, so this guy dies, and on his gravestone, the most important thing he wanted to notate was, "I beat the banks." Okay, now again, we're talking about freedom. What does this have to do with freedom, right? Because we're celebrating, like, in 1776, we broke away from Great Britain. And like I said, they're not really about to come take over the United States again. So that aspect of it, we should recognize that was awesome. That was cool. But what does this mean for the future? Okay. And again, I believe freedom happens in gradients. So that level is like the very basic level of freedom is we're actually our own country. We're actually our own country. That's like super basic, right? But beyond that, what's next? Because we can't just dwell on the fact that we're our own country and brag about being the greatest in the world and then not actually like live out the freedoms we have. So when we talk about freedom, there's like freedom as like the group where we're not being suppressed by another nation. Okay, a couple weeks ago we celebrated Juneteenth. That's freedom of like the body. Like I actually am my own person, right? African Americans, they didn't have the celebration of freedom in 1776. That came later for them, right? And so that's something that we look at as like another gradient of freedom. I'm free to be my own body and my own person. I'm not a slave. Nobody owns me. So we go from a country doesn't own us to an individual or group doesn't own me. Okay. After that, what's next? Because all of us have the what's next part right now. Not a single one of us is a slave. Not a single one of us is suppressed by an English government ruler. We all have, within a nutshell, in our own lives, and it's all relative, but we have our own freedom to do the things we want to do. What are we doing with it? Now, I'm talking mostly finances, but you could look at this in any scope. If I am physically out of shape to a degree, I have reduced freedom. Okay. If I'm married and I'm in a bad relationship with my spouse, meaning that I have, things I've done wrong or problems in my relationship to a degree, I have less freedom. Financially, there's tons of degrees of freedom. There's tons and tons of steps towards freedom. And I love this because like, we go back to our education on money. I was not ever taught about money. But that was the number one thing next to gravity and oxygen that I was born into slavery to. Money. Okay, little, 1-day-old Jerry, I had to breathe and I had to obey the laws of gravity. And little did I know, as soon as I could fend for myself, I had to get a job and start trading my time for money. That's a form of slavery if I really think about that, because time is not even a real thing, right? Time is this. Time is, let me get the example here. Time is this notepad moved across the screen. Really, it's a measurement of motion. But we have to somehow make sense of the point A to point B and come up with something called time and say, oh, that took this much time. Time is not actually a real thing. It's measuring motion. Okay, motion is propelled by energy. So if we really want to get like fundamental here, time is a measurement of energy. See, I can think like that. I can think with that because as a person, I'm full of energy. Energy is what causes me to create. Energy is what causes me to communicate. Energy is what I use to go places. Energy is what I use to do things. Okay, so when I'm trading my time for money, that's really like high level. You guys remember math doing reductions, like reducing an equation down to its most basic form. So we hear I trade time for money. Let's reduce that down. No, I trade my motions for money because when I'm working, when I was delivering pizza, I would drive the car. That was trading motions for money. Now the motion, we reduce that down further, comes from energy. At the very basis, I am trading my energy for money. What is my energy? My answer on this is my viewpoint. My energy is my spirit. My energy is me as a spiritual being. I am trading units of myself as a spiritual being for pieces of paper. That's freaking slavery. I don't care how you look at it. I don't care how we dress it up. I don't care how good, well paid I am, how great my job is. That is a form of slavery, economic slavery. I was born into that. You were born into that. All of us were born into that. Okay, think about it. Like we go to school. Why do we go to school? Why do we go to school? Because back in the early 1900s, they didn't have public school. That didn't come around till later. Okay, those that funded public school, John Rockefeller Jr. was one of the main ones. He funded it and he started that system because he needed future workers. So the entire purpose of me even going to school is so that I can begin to engage in this trading of my energy for money. Right? College. What about college? We don't go to college unless we're trying to have a career. Right? So I'm going to spend $50,000 of green paper that I don't have to guarantee in the future that I will trade my energy, my spirit for green pieces of paper. Okay, what about the house? I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to borrow money from a bank that the bank doesn't really even have. And then I'm going to guarantee them future components of my income, $2,000 a month, $1,500 a month, guaranteeing in the future for the next 30 years at least, I will have to trade energy units of myself for green paper so I can pay the mortgage. Retirement is the same thing. I'm gonna trade enough units of my energy to accumulate enough cash to buy financial instruments and stack up enough of those so that one day I can stop. Guys, that is a rat race. Like that's 100% financial slavery. And it's like when I first started learning about this, right? I was like, man, I really want to get out of that system. I really want to get out of that system. That was the end goal, meaning I want to dream in all of our goal. If you don't have to trade your time for money, then you're free to go do what you want to do. I can now actually like be in control of myself and my energy. So how do I do that? That became the question. How do I get in a position where I actually can say I'm financially free? Because right now, again, doesn't matter how I dress it up. If I can't travel, let's say that I want to travel somewhere. If I can't buy the ticket, I'm not free. Okay, let's say that I want to eat organic because I think non-organic food gives me cancer and diabetes. I can't afford organic groceries because of the job that I have and the paycheck that I earn. I'm not financially free. Okay, for me, one of my big ones, my mom at age 60, she died of cancer. I couldn't afford to help. I was financially enslaved to the degree that I could not afford to help. That's huge. That's financial slavery. I'm not free to that degree. So to the degree that money restricts me is the degree that I am financially enslaved to it. Okay, I hope we're all tracking with this. To the degree that money restricts me is the degree that I am financially enslaved to it. And we talked about this last week. There's 3 routes I can take here. I can go into poverty. I can say I quit, I'm done with money, I'm not playing the game, I'm getting out of the matrix, and just go be homeless. Right? People do that. But at the end of the day, like we talked about, that's not freedom. As if I'm homeless, there's still things I can't do. Right? Or I can live in denial, AKA the middle class, 90% of America. I can sweep it under the rug and pretend like nothing is happening and just act like everything is peachy and fine. Okay, and most of us do that, and we successfully do that until we can't any longer. Something happens, we lose the job, someone gets sick, COVID-19 happens, and the company shuts down. The stock market crashes, and all of our life saving is gone. 2008 happens, and we lose the house. That only works until it doesn't. The third option is I can go build wealth. I can become financially free, where I have such an abundance of money and currency that I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't have to worry about, do I have enough? I don't consider it in my thoughts. I don't consider it in my planning because it's just there. It's like oxygen, right? There's an abundance. And so that's the degree of financial freedom. Now, when I first realized that, I was like, man, I have to get enough passive income where I can be financially free. The problem is my actions and education level didn't allow for me to do that. Right? Because a lot of us, like when we hear this freedom thing, we're like, yeah, that sounds like it. That's the goal. Let me go buy some courses. Let me go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Let me go figure out like all of this stuff. And it's kind of like this little community, right? If you get on Facebook and Instagram, there's like the cash flow community. Most of them are not financially free. Most of them have actually never done a real estate deal even, because we can't even figure out like how to get out of where we're at to get there in the first place. A lot of them that do bust out because they didn't actually do it the right way. Right? So I have to, again, reduce it all the way down. If I'm trying to get to this level of financial freedom, where am I at now? Like, where am I financially stuck and enslaved today? And that's what I want to talk about here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I want to go through some stuff with you guys. And really some of this is going to seem like it's review, but I want you to take mental inventory. Okay, I want you to take mental inventory of where you're at with this right now, right? And the first thing here is, so this is called the blueprint to financial freedom that I'm going to go over with you guys. And it basically lines out step by step, what is it that I have to do in order from the very beginning to become financially free? Okay, the first step on this is, do I actually know about money? Do I actually know how money works? Okay. And in order to know how money works, I have to actually know what money is. A lot of people, especially with me being an economic advisor to my clients and a wealth coach to them, I've been in the financial industry for almost a decade now. When I talk about knowing how money works, most people think I mean knowing how a 401k works, or knowing how a mortgage works, or knowing how revolving debt versus fixed debt works, or knowing about dollar cost averaging or diversifying. That's not what I mean. Okay, that's actually a trap. That's not money. Those things are not money. Those are mechanisms created by a human being to confuse us and get more of our money. When I say knowing how money works, I first mean knowing what money is. Okay, what is money? Basic. What is money? When I was growing up, I thought money was green pieces of paper. I thought it was green pieces of paper, and I could collect more and more of those green pieces of paper. And I did get, allowance for doing chores and different things like that. So I was like, man, that must be money. Okay, the problem was, for some reason, I still wasn't succeeding with it. That thinking didn't work. And I thought that I was right, because I was like, well, that must be it, because my dad goes to work, he gets paid money, my mom gets paid money, we give money to people. Money, that green piece of paper, is a coupon. Okay, we've all used a coupon, right? You go to the store, you give them the coupon, and you get some sort of a discount, right? That's all it is. It's a coupon system. So we use it to exchange with each other. That's how money is. That's what it works. That's what money is. That's how it works. So instead of me saying, all right, I've got this cup of coffee and you've got this bottle of water, let's say, I want your water, but you don't want my coffee. See, this would be called bartering. We would say, okay, well, if you did want my coffee and I did want your water, we could just trade and we'd be happy. It gets complex though when you say, nah, I don't want your coffee, Jerry. You can have my water. I would rather have a set of Beats headphones, right? So I would have to go, this is my wife's Beats headphones. I would have to go get somebody. I still have my coffee. I would have to go find somebody that had Beats headphones, hope that they wanted to trade my coffee for the headphones. If they did, great, it's a trade. If they didn't, I would have to find out what they wanted so that I could go get that from somebody else and trade it with them. You just see how confusing that would get and how inconvenient that would be. So eventually we said, screw it, let's create a coupon system. Okay, so as long as you have this coupon, then you don't have to give me the Beats. You just give me the coupon. I'll give you the water. I have the coupon now. I can go redeem this coupon for whatever I want to redeem it for. And everyone will accept it, and universally it's valued, and it just makes sense, and it's faster. So we all agreed to that. Initially, those coupons were, anything from gold and silver to rocks to seeds to corn to shells, tons of different things that we used as a coupon. Right? But the thing is that coupon is not actually money. The coupon is a guarantee that in the future someone will accept it. That's actually confidence. See, so money is only a medium of exchange, meaning it's a thing we exchange with. It's a medium of exchange backed by confidence. What is the confidence in? Okay, the confidence is currently in the system. Like, we believe money is intrinsically valuable somehow because the government says it is, and we continue to believe that that will be true. And so because of that, we still use the US dollar. Lots of countries aren't now. Lots of countries are saying, screw the US dollar. We don't think it's worth anything. But right now, the United States still uses it, right? That's what money is. Okay, it is a medium of exchange. It's backed by confidence. That's all. We use it to trade things back and forth, and we just trust that we'll be able to trade it to someone else and we'll be able to get what we want when we give it to them. So when I understand that, money is really a system of bartering and a system of value, right? The thing that gives money value is the energy that produces the work we use to exchange for it. Meaning, when I trade my time or my energy at my job and they pay me money, that work that I did is valued in a certain term of money. So now I can go trade it. That's how I get money. So if I don't understand this component, I'm going to have a very tough time in life because I won't be able to get income. That's financial slavery. That's a degree of financial slavery. So the reciprocal of that financial freedom in this sense would be knowing how money works, knowing what money is. See, because it's great and grandiose to be like, man, I want passive income. I want to be, financially free, and I want real estate, and I want all this stuff. But if I'm at step one where I don't even know what money is and how money works, there's no way in hell that I become financially free. Because right now I'm in a self-created bondage of not even knowing what the very thing is that I'm working for is and how it works. And I say self-created because at no point do most of us fix it. We go to school, obey them so we can get the job, right? That we're going to work for money. We go to college so we can work for more money. Never once do we question what is this stuff and how does it work? Yet we basically paint ourselves into a corner with it in life, and then we never actually like sit down and think about, what am I trading my time for? And what is all this for? And how does it work? And is it worth it? And should I really be doing this? Imagine asking that question in high school, right? Or in middle school. Okay. That's the first step, knowing how money works. When I know how money works, I can start to go earn income, right? So the next step of this, if I'm not earning enough income, that's financial slavery. Again, it's self-imposed. So it's not about the man. It's not about other people with different genders and skin colors and religions and none of that. It's I have the responsibility to take care of myself and my family. I either take that responsibility seriously and I understand how the game works, and then I go out and produce income, or I don't, and then I find someone to blame it on, because I'm not going to take the blame for letting my kids starve or letting my wife live in mediocrity, or I can't take that. So I have to find somebody else to blame it on. So I'll find government or whatever system or group to say it's their fault. Really, it's mine. If I'm not earning enough income, I am causing myself to be in financial slavery. And this hit me hard when I first learned this, guys. That wasn't my mindset. Okay, I was 21 years old, 22 years old. My mom just died, didn't go to college, went to Houston High School, 60 kids in my graduating class, don't know this, don't know that, don't have a mentor, and it was everyone else's fault. Okay, until I wound up homeless. And then I realized I can blame everyone else as much as I want to. They're not going to come help me right now. And that was the point where I had to realize, okay, I actually have to start doing something to increase my level of responsibility. And I used to be a personal trainer. I love this because a lot of it relates to that. It's not someone else's fault if I'm obese. I put too much food in my mouth and I don't go to the gym. That would be the only reason I'm obese. Okay, and so I can't blame it on someone. If I'm not earning enough income, it's also no one else's fault. I consume too much and I produce too little. That's the only reason I don't earn enough income. That stings. When I first learned that, I didn't like that. Because then I didn't have an excuse. Then I had no one else to blame. I had to confront. I dug myself this crap hole and climbed inside of it and buried myself, and it's all my responsibility. I did all of it, which means I have the power now to undo all of it. That's the difference on this. It's victim thinking versus victor thinking. Now, the next step is again, financial freedom. We're now going from, I know how money works, I know what it is. That's a degree of freedom. The next degree is I'm actually doing something to earn income. Because if I'm not doing something to earn income, none of this matters. I'm not going to get wealthy living on food stamps, living on subsidies, living on COVID-19 loans. Like, that's not going to work. I actually have to go buck up and produce the income. So let's say I've done that, right? Let's say I've done that. My first mistake when I did that was, now I started borrowing. I couldn't afford a car. My car broke down. My mindset was, man, a new car costs 10 grand. I don't have 10 grand, but I have $300 per month. I could go get a car payment. So I started borrowing money, right? Now, when I say borrowing money, there's always two schools of thought here. There's the people that understand what I mean and they're like, oh, I get it. And then there's the Robert Kiyosaki people that are like, that's not, there's good debt and bad debt, and you want to use leverage. Guys, we're not talking about that. We're talking about consumer debt. If I borrow money to buy a car, I now owe them my income for the next 5 to 10 years. That's not good debt. We're not talking about real estate deals right now. So we're going to talk about just debt. I borrowed money I didn't have, and now I owe a payment for something that doesn't pay me. Debt, right? That's the next degree of financial slavery. My car payment. Guys, if I pay a $400 a month car payment, I'm giving up $400 of my income for the rest of my life on the car. And I say the rest of my life because most people will always have a car payment. That's slavery, right? Credit cards. If I start doing credit cards and I rack up, $500-$600 a month credit card payments, same thing. That's $500 to $600 of my income that now goes to an institution. Same exact thing. Okay. Mortgage, same deal. Student loan, same deal. Okay. The student loan is the worst because I don't even have income yet. It's literally predatory. There's nothing good about the student loan. So That's the next degree of financial slavery, is I have to get out of debt. I have to get out of debt. Okay. And again, these are, it says debts that are not profitable. I have to get out of debts that are not profitable. So again, to highlight, we're not talking about I bought a real estate deal that cash flows and I'm making money. That's not it. We're saying car payment, mortgage, credit card, student loan, medical debt, all of the stuff that I borrow for, that I pay them and they don't pay me. I'm not going to get financially free if I have that stuff, because one of the further steps down the line is save 40% of my income. I can't save 40% of my income if the bank has 40 or 50% of it already. I've got to get it back from them, right? So for me to get financially free, I have to recognize, got to know about money, what it is. I actually have to apply that and go get money, the income piece. Then I have to go basically get in present time with my income and pay off the debts that I got into. And I can do this over a very long period, like 20, 30 years, like most people, or I can do it in like 2 years. And I'm going to work really hard, and I'm not going to be able to take weekends off, and I'm not going to go out drinking or to the movies or whatever it is people do for fun, because I'm going to hustle and pay off my debt. That's the next step towards financial freedom. See, and this is the one a lot of us, like, we ignore and we get stuck on because it's so much work. Okay, at my worst, I had easy like 5 figures debt between credit cards, cars. I think we had 2 vehicles. Each one was probably 10 grand. I had a couple thousand on credit cards, like, $15,000, $20,000 at the age of 22. That's not a small amount of money. So for me to look at, I have 20 grand in debt and I don't even make 20 grand a year in income at that time. Like, I understand why people give up on that. They're like, man, how am I ever going to pay the debt off? This goes back to the intensity factor. How bad do I want to be free? I have to actually have the mindset that I am not currently free and I need to be free. Like, imagine actually being like enslaved right now, physically enslaved. You would do anything to get out. You would do anything, even to the point of self-injury, to get out. I would too. We don't have that intensity when it comes to debt. We're like, oh, it's normal. I'll always have a car payment. Eventually, we just laugh at it because we don't know what else to do, because if we don't laugh, we're going to cry. So I have to take that, like, the same exact mindset. I'm not financially free. I'm going to work 30 years so the bank can get wealthy off of me while I trade my energy units for a green piece of paper. I don't think so. Okay, so I'm going to get out of debt with that. That's the next step. Then I'm actually going to have some reserves. This is another one. People don't have reserves today, guys. This is why COVID-19 killed so many people financially. They didn't have money in the bank. Companies didn't even have money in the bank. We're seeing like Hertz and Cirque du Soleil, Pizza Hut, like all of these gigantic companies going bankrupt because they didn't have freaking 3 months of bills in the bank. That's not freedom. Like, think about that. If 3 months of losing my job causes me to be financially insolvent, I am in slavery to myself again, because I wasn't smart enough to keep more of my income. That's not freedom. So I have to look at that and realize that too is financial bondage. Right? That's what I'm saying. It's degrees. I have to continually dig myself out over and over and over and over until I'm actually out for good. Right? One of those things I've got to do is I have to save up 6 months of my expenses in the bank. And when I say in the bank, I don't actually mean in the bank. You should do it in your sacred account, but save 6 months of expenses. That means that if I lost my job, I would be fine for 6 months. That means that if I had a medical incident, I would be fine for 6 months. If I got disabled, I would be fine for 6 months. If something happened in my family and I had to go take care of somebody, I would be fine for 6 months. That's a degree of freedom to say, hey, I don't have to trade my time for money for 6 months because I would be covered. So I've got to get to that point, get up to the 6 month level. Now, at this point, we're stable. Like, if you're at step 5 on this, like you have 6 months, you're what I would call financially solvent. Okay, I got to the point one time, several years back, where I became financially solvent, and I realized, man, before this, I was financially insolvent. Crazy to think about, because everyone I knew was financially insolvent as well. 60, 70% of America has less than $1,000 in the bank. 80% of America is paycheck to paycheck. Average American has over $15,000 on credit cards. That means 80% of America is financially insolvent, meaning they're not solvent, they're broke. That's another word for it. I'm broke. If I get on step 5, I'm officially no longer broke. Okay, the problem is people before step 5 act like they're not broke. Somehow they take financial slavery and they twist it in their own minds to make it seem normal. And imagine, like, imagine being enslaved and being like, man, I'm going to take a vacation. No, you would not take a vacation. You would be like, no, I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm financially enslaved. I'm enslaved right now. Let me get out. I'll think of a vacation later. But a lot of people make themselves comfortable in slavery. We will somehow make sense of it and start taking trips and buying things and basically furthering ourselves into financial enslavement. You see, everything from step 5 that we've covered, having 6 months in savings, everything from step 5 down is self-imposed. 100% of it is self-imposed, because we're not even dealing with like financial instruments and investments. We're just dealing with behavior. When I get money, do I act like an intelligent person or do I act like an idiot? Like, and not to call anyone an idiot, I'm talking about myself. That's how I viewed it. When I get money, do I make smart decisions or do I make dumb decisions? And if I make enough dumb decisions, that's how I get broke, in debt, not knowing how money works and having a, so I get to step 5, I'm officially stable. I'm no longer broke. And I'm now starting to get into the zone of, I'm no longer financially enslaving myself, but now there's other groups and people that are doing it to me without me knowing about it. The first one is actually with the dollar we work for. Okay. We'll use this as an example. Okay. The dollar used to be backed by gold, meaning when you saw a dollar, you would see how much gold you could redeem it for. If you went to the United States Treasury, you could turn it in. They would literally give us gold. They'd be like, hey, it's the coupon, right? I'm going to give them my coupon, my certificate. They would give me $20 worth of gold if I had a $20 bill. Okay, in 1971, we were taken off the gold system. Very important. And I don't want to get too complex with this because it goes very deep. But the moment that happened, the US dollar became worthless. It literally is backed by nothing. It has no value, meaning that we are trading our time for nothing, right? That's slavery, right? So if I get out of debt and I know how money works and I save up money and then I realize the very thing I've been saving is worth nothing, now I have a problem. Now, the way out of that problem is I actually start accumulating gold, right? That's literally step 6, start accumulating gold. I'm putting money aside. I've paid off, think of where I'm at now. I've paid off all of my debt. I have no debt anymore. So I probably have, 2 or 3 grand a month back in my income, right? I'm earning more. I know how money works. I've been setting it aside. I have 6 months of savings just in case. Now I'm going to start buying real money, gold. I'm going to accumulate gold. And I want to get up to a point where I have enough gold that I can actually purchase my house for it. Okay, purchasing a house means I do a 20% down payment. So I save up 20% worth of gold. I'm going to use that gold to go buy my house. Okay, because that's another thing that's a form of slavery. I have to pay somewhere to live. If I rent, I'm going to pay it to a landlord. Okay, if I own, I'm going to pay it to a mortgage. Both are bad. Both are housing expenses. Both are me having to do something, not having an option or a choice. So by doing this, I'm going to use the gold to buy my house, 20% down. I'm going to buy it on a line of credit, not a mortgage. Okay, mortgage is part of the trap. Again, we're talking now about groups that take advantage of us. Banks are the main group that do that. So I don't want to go to a bank and get a mortgage. Okay, I want a line of credit on my house instead. Why? Because I can pay it down faster, I pay less interest, and I can freely use my equity, right? So I do that. That gets me out of A, not having real money, B, paying on a mortgage for the next 30 years and not being able to use the equity in the house that I own. And also not having to pay a landlord till I'm 70 years old. Like at a certain point, I do need to buy the house and move in and reduce my costs and actually own the thing, right? So that's what we're getting into now. Now, notice I have said nothing about putting money in retirement. We're not even there yet. The reason why is retirement is one of the biggest scams on earth, okay? Did you know, and I'm gonna give you guys just really quickly, okay, back in 2008, you guys remember what happened in 2008, the market crashed. Just a couple surface level things, nothing, no big deal, right? But the market crashed because Wall Street made it crash. Okay, they literally borrowed money to buy things that they knew were going to go down in value. Like imagine like it's the equivalent of going to a car dealership and being sold a lemon, except Wall Street is the car dealership. Wall Street sold the consumer, you and I, a lemon, a dud. Like they sold us investments that they knew were going to fail. Then they bought insurance on the investments so that when the investments failed, they would get paid. So they got paid by selling it to us. Then they got paid again with the insurance payout. That would literally be like me being a car dealership, selling you a vehicle that I knew was going to break, and then buying insurance against the vehicle so that when it broke, I could get paid again. If I was a car dealership and I did that to you, you would literally think I'm the scum of the earth. One of the worst companies that did this was called Lehman Brothers. Okay, they went under. Another one was called Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is still around. In 2008, actually a little prior to 2008, the CEO of Goldman Sachs that was having them do this stuff, this is the #1 guy that was having Goldman Sachs take advantage of people like this. He retired, I think in like 2007 or 2008, and became the freaking US Treasurer, the Secretary of Treasury. The guy is literally a criminal. Not only that, he had like 50 million or $50 billion in Goldman Sachs stock, right? 50 million or billion, you have to Google this. Okay, he had let's call it 50 million just to be on the conservative side. He had like 50 million of Goldman Sachs stock. The year or two before he became Treasury of Secretary, George Bush wrote a law into Congress saying that if somebody has to sell stock because they're joining office, they don't have to pay taxes on it. 2 years later, this dude, criminal, retires from his job, has to sell his stock because he is US Treasurer and he pays no taxes on any of it. And now he's freaking running the pocketbook of the United States government. When 2 years prior, he was committing financial fraud against literally every American out there. This is the kind of crap Wall Street does. You want to know another one? Wall Street does this thing with China called an offshore merger. They'll take a US company that was dead, meaning the company went out of business, like Hertz is about to, no longer traded, no longer active. They'll take the name of Hertz, the brand of Hertz, they'll sell it to a company in China that doesn't exist, then they'll cook the books. They'll help these Chinese companies report really high accounting numbers so that you think it's a good thing to put in your stocks and your mutual fund portfolio. You buy it and you give all this money to the Chinese people, the billionaires, and then they crash it and they take all your money and you end up with nothing. That's actually happening actively today on the stock market. That's one of the biggest scams in the world. You do not want to be in the stock market. Anyone who says they want the stock market, they enjoy the stock market, they like it, they're severely uneducated. Or they're a day trader, which is a totally different thing. If you're day trading, you're taking advantage of the scam. More power to you. Most of us aren't day trading, right? So like this idea of like, man, I'm doing the right thing, but I'm actually not. Imagine like taking vitamins and then finding out they were poison. That's what's happening every single time you contribute money to a 401k plan, every time you put money in mutual funds, every time you buy an ETF, like that's you taking vitamins and it's actually poison. So we're not going to do the stock market. Okay, another reason we're not going to do the stock market is you can't use that to your 60. So what's the point? Tell me, what is the point of paying off my debt, getting 6 months saved, buying gold, getting a house, doing this all hopefully by the time I'm 30, and then having nothing until I'm 60 because I put all of it into a 401k that I can't touch. That's literally like reverse. That's opposite of what we're trying to do. So it doesn't even align with me being financially free. So when I get to this point, I am not putting money in the market. I'm not putting money in the 401k. I'm not going to get the free match. The match isn't free. Like I'm staying out of that system. What am I doing instead? That's the question. At the point that I have my 6 months saved, my gold, I've purchased my home. At this point, I'm ready to invest. My goal is to save up about 50,000 minimum to buy an investment that pays me monthly passive income. The reason why, catch my drift on this. Let's say that I make 6 grand a month at my job. That's $6,000 per month that I'm enslaved. The only way that I get out of that is I have to have 6,000 a month coming in elsewhere that's not tied to me working. So I'm going to gradually purchase these investments. And every time I purchase one, if I do a $50,000 investment, I might make $300, $400, $500 a month, right? If I get enough of those $300 to $500 a month payments coming in from different investments, because I keep saving and buying and saving and buying, eventually I have 6 grand a month coming in and I don't have to work anymore. Now I'm literally unplugged. I no longer have to trade my energy for money. I'm out. I'm done. I don't have to work a job. And I could do this when I'm like 30 or 40, not when I'm 60 or 70. You guys see the difference on this? It's a total paradigm shift. It's built around I am in financial enslavement. How do I get out? Let's start at the beginning and let's work our way there. And at the point that I get out, I have to make sure that I actually secure my position. Because think about this like a battle, right? And the reason I want to relate this to a battle is because it really is one, financially speaking. These banks and Wall Street firms, they commit fraud on such a regular basis because they can make so much money on you and I that on their accounting, they incorporate fraud as a cost of doing business. Guys, we're dealing with billion-dollar organizations that make so much money off of us that they know, hey, if I break the law, I'm going to pay this much in fines and this much in fees and this much in lawsuits. So let's just figure out what's the cost. How many of these do we need to do to be profitable, even though we have the lawsuits and the fines and the fees? They have that much money. Like I talked to a very high level tax attorney today, and she said that there was a bank that she worked with. She didn't tell me the name, but she said that they wanted to commit tax fraud. The bank did. And so what they did is they created a paper trail of 78 false transactions to basically make the IRS think they didn't have to pay income tax. These are the kind of people we're dealing with. So when I get my $6,000 a month in passive income and I don't have to work anymore, it is not vacation time. This means that I officially escaped the concentration camp. I'm still outside the gate. I need to freaking run, and I need to get far away, and I need to keep running until I'm nowhere near there, which means I have to go from 6,000 a month to 7,000 a month to 8,000 a month and keep going until I know there's no chance in hell I ever go back. Do you see the intensity I have with this? This is what I teach people to do. You have to do this if you want to be out of financial slavery. If you want to be financially free, this is what's required. Now, a lot of us at this point, to be quite frank, we're like, man, this sounds impossible. It sounds like a lot of work. I got stuck back there where he was talking about debt, went right over my head. I don't know what he's talking about anymore. Like, let me bring everyone back to reality. Average lifespan of American is what, 75, 80 years old. So you will do something for the next 75 to 80 years of your life. You will either do it as a financial slave or you will do it financially free. With that perspective, does it really matter how much work it is? You're going to be working anyways. Does it really matter how much time it's going to take? You're going to spend the time anyways. Do you want to actually run for it and try and get financially free and maybe fail, but still be better off than you would have been, or make it and be way better off than you ever would have imagined and probably change the legacy and generational track of your entire family, or be like, nah, they have bunk beds in the concentration camp. I'll just stay. Like, at least they feed me. That's the mindset. So like, regardless of how complex and complicated it is, that's what I'm for. I'm here to educate. I'm here to help you stay on track. I'm here to give you a plan. I'm here to encourage you. Every single one of my clients, if you're watching and you're not a client, every single one of my clients has my cell phone number. They all know they can call me, text me anytime they need to. I'm always available, right? And so I'm your ally in this, but you actually have to want to make a run for it. Okay, I got out. Okay, I'm 28 years old. I got out of that. I got financially free to the degree that I don't ever have to go to a job again. Never have, like in several years now, and I never will in the rest of my life, and my kids and grandkids won't either. So I can help you, or we can pretend we're comfortable. We can pretend like everything is fine and that it's normal and justify and make sense of all of this. But for those of us tomorrow that are going to have a barbecue and hang out, or just stay quarantined in the house with a freaking mask on, you're free to do that too. Whatever your prerogative, but we're all going to be acknowledging and celebrating freedom. And my viewpoint is it would be hypocritical of me to do that and not actually be pursuing freedom in my life today. For me to look back and say, oh yeah, they won my freedom, but then I gave it up and didn't do anything to keep it. But then I became a financial slave. Like, literally, the idea behind all of this is that you are a production unit used by the banks and used by the government to fund them. Your work equals their income. There's no, like, the US government has no revenue other than taxation. The trillions of dollars they just printed out to bail out these businesses and companies, that's going to come out of your future taxes. You will pay that. That will be your income, your children's income, and your grandkids' income paying this off for people. I'm not okay with that. That pisses me off. When I hear that, that makes me upset, disgusted, you name it. And I want to get out of that. I want to make sure my family never has to deal with that. And I want to make sure my clients never have to deal with that. If that's the level that you have where you hear that and it disturbs you, even if you don't know how to get out yet, it starts with understanding what's going on and how money works. Goes back to the very first step. Okay, and like I said, we'll walk you through. I just showed you all the steps. There's more, but I'll show you all of the steps to get there, and we'll help you get there. But like, it comes down to, do I actually want freedom? Do I actually want freedom? And it might sound extreme, but it's no different than me working out every day. Okay, I work out every day because I never want to be the guy that says I don't actually have the ability to run or hike or climb or play or swim or go places the way that I want to go places or do things that I want to do, because I'm physically restricted. So I work out every day to prevent that from happening. Preventative, right? Same reason I eat well. My mom died of cancer. I don't want to die of cancer. I don't want anyone here watching to die of cancer. So I watch what I eat. I eat organic. I avoid sugars. I avoid white flours, chemicals. It's preventative. I'm trying to prevent something from happening to the future, right? But the finance thing is not preventative. It is actively happening to us today. Like if it was cancer, financially, we actively have cancer right now. If it was morbid obesity, financially, we actively have that today. Like if it was enslavement, financially, that's actively happening today. So we'll spend so much time and effort preventing other areas of our life from being in this condition, but our finances are already there. They were there from the day we were all born. We were born into the system that we're in today. And unless we do something to get out, it's never going to get better. It will only get worse. Okay, so that's what I have for you tonight. I know it was intense. I want to go ahead and leave this open for questions. So if you guys are on Facebook, Instagram, Zoom, put your questions in the comments. I will answer all of them. Let me scroll down on Instagram. We'll hit Instagram first, just because you guys have a time limit. If you didn't know, Instagram shuts the live down after like an hour. So I want to make sure we don't miss anybody. Let's see, questions on Instagram. Thank you guys all for watching, by the way. Evan says, what's your favorite color? Evan, my favorite color is green. If you guys ever get me something like a coat, hat, shirt, whatever, green is a good way to go. Nexo says, love from New York. That's awesome. Good to see you. I haven't been to New York yet. I plan to. That would be a great place to visit. My wife has. I've been to Chicago, though. Chicago is pretty cool. Let's see. What other questions do we have? Let's see. David says money is a substitution for value. He says young kids know that money has value, but they don't know the exact value of money. They just ask their parents. That can be true. I remember asking about money all the time. Debt is modern day slavery. Here's a good question. So David Mejia says, or Mejia says, Jerry, do you consider interest-free loans bad debt? So there's no such thing as good debt and bad debt, contrary to popular belief. Debt is debt. There's good behavior and bad behavior. So good behavior would mean regardless of interest rate, I use debt to buy something that pays me more than it costs. That's good behavior. There's bad behavior, which means I used debt to buy something that costs me. It doesn't pay for itself. So again, there's no such thing as good debt and bad debt. It's not like you're walking through the bank and lurking behind the corner. There's bad debt and he's going to jump up and grab me. Like, that's not how it works. There's debt. It's an inanimate object, and I can either do smart things or dumb things with it. So that's what I would say on that. So even if it's a 0% interest credit card, I can behave wisely with that. I can also behave like an idiot with it. And there's no good or bad other than just the way that I behave. Let's see. David Mejia says, so you're saying the PPP was a bad idea. So yeah, the PPP, for those of you that don't know, the PPP is the one of the SBA loan programs that the government came out with during COVID-19 to bail out business owners. I didn't take one, and the main reason is I didn't need to take one. My business made more money during COVID-19 than ever. But the other reason why I didn't take one is that's not like the SBA, it's coming directly from the United States Treasury. So if I take an SBA loan, my creditor is literally the United States government. There's probably 3 or 4 instances that after the SBA loans came out, the rules were changed. Okay. And that means that like I signed for one thing and then a completely different thing was made up after I've already signed for it. Imagine buying a product or buying a mortgage, then them changing your interest rate and payments and different tax benefits on you in that mortgage. So that's a big thing. Another thing, the reason why I avoided it is I guarantee most of the business owners that took one are going to get audited. So in some way, shape, or form, they're already having attorney teams go out to, because they release so much money out. So it's ripe for fraud. A lot of businesses were like, hey, I could take this and go buy real estate with it, when really the rules specifically say I can only use it for X, Y, and Z, right? So if I'm the treasury, I'm going to go investigate all these businesses and I'm going to say, hey, your loan is not forgiven. You need to pay extra interest. Here's penalties because now I have a new revenue for taxes. So I would never take a loan from the government. Doesn't matter how bad off things are. Aaron says, Jerry, what income do you need to get into estates with 50K saved? So he's asking, how much do you need to earn to save 50K? So it depends on 2 things. How much are you earning? And then it also depends on how much are you spending, right? So, I think a good income target for like not being broke is go earn 10 grand a month. Like that's K in probably a year and a half. Right? If I earn less, it's going to take me longer. So the quicker I want that number, the more income I've got to earn. And with income, we've got to stop thinking in terms of like, what's the salary? Get into sales. That's what I did. Like get into sales and you'll go earn whatever you want to earn. I remember earning my first 5-figure paycheck. It was half a year's salary I earned in one sale. And I was like, man, why haven't I been doing this forever? Aaron says, without being worried about risk. So risk is subjective. Risk comes from not knowing what I'm doing, right? So if I know what I'm doing, then I'll mitigate risk, meaning I'll get rid of risk because I'll understand what happens, cause and effect, and I'll be able to avoid it or prevent it from happening. Okay, that's all the questions we have on Instagram. So Insta, thank you guys for watching. I am going to sign you out. It's past your bedtime for most of you guys anyways. I'll talk to y'all next time. If you guys are on Facebook, let's hit Facebook questions next. I love picking on Instagram. I don't know if you guys have ever been on my Instagram during these lives, but the comments are terrible, like just nasty comments. So most of them, I believe they probably still live in mom's basement, and it legitimately probably has passed some of their bedtimes right now. Sean King, William Wallace is right, man. I can't tell you how proud I was. So earlier I was saying, my dad did Ancestry and tracked us all the way back to William Wallace. And I have to say, at the point I realized I was related to William Wallace, a lot of my life made more sense. All right, questions. Josh says, eventually we just laugh at it because if we don't laugh, we'll cry. So true. It is true. A lot of us are living in financial denial, and that's the only thing we can resort to. Brad Reese, actually, Brad introduced me to the movie China Hustle. So I was talking about the offshore mergers that happen with the Chinese companies. There's a movie called The China Hustle. I think you can watch it on YouTube or Amazon. And it's a documentary actually that breaks that down. It's still happening today. Like this is not like a 2008, like the bad guys got slapped in the hand. Like it actively happens today on the stock market. Brad says, what is the Investors Summit invitation? So Brad, we're going to release this. The first one will have to be virtual, but basically next month, we're going to do this. All of our investment providers are going to do a web conference. It's clients only. So all of our investment firms that we work with, the fund managers, a couple of the CEOs, myself, we're going to get on and basically do an investment conference and break down what's happening with the investments, what are we looking for, and really just do a deep dive with all of our clients that are investors. Brad, you would be included in that. Again, that's clients only. It's not going to be a public event. Once COVID stops next year, 2021, we'll actually do it at Denali, which is the tallest mountain in North America. So it will literally be the Investors Summit. Joe Sue Villanueva says, how do we start? How can we connect with you? How can we get together to talk more about this? Just purchase your book. That's awesome. So Joe Sue, the book is a great way to start. You can also go to let me just reply to your comment. You can go to membership.jerryfetta.com. You can sign up there for a program called Wealth Dynamics University. And that's a free trial. So if you want to do a free trial to it, you can get 2 weeks access. And basically, you can start learning more about this. I do these every week. If you go on there, you're going to have hundreds of these, lots and lots of hours of content. Gene says the green is the color of money. That is true. Actually, Gene, if we're really going technical on this, gold is the color of money. Josu says, would you recommend any specific niches for sales jobs? So this is a good question. I see a lot of people struggling to find income. It's one of the main conversations I have with clients. And it's usually not because people are broke. It's because they have a job that's paying them $40,000 to $70,000 per year. And that just covers the bills. So most people are like, all right, how do I save more and earn more? I would say the best thing is if you're currently full-time employed, watch my video from last week. That's exactly what I did. As I took my weekend hours, my evening hours, and I repurposed that. And I would look for a sales opportunity where it has a very quick cycle, meaning the sale can happen fast. And I don't have to buy inventory. That's a big thing. I don't want to have to put money into buying the job. Okay, I just want to sell a product. Real estate is good. Financial services is good. Solar is good. Security sales is good because I don't actually have to own the thing I'm selling. I can literally just sell someone else's inventory or sell someone else's service. So it's very easy to get in and start succeeding with that. Car sales is another one. My guy Andrew just joined. He's in car sales. Car sales is good too because I don't have to go buy the lot. I can just go sell what the lot has. All right, if there's any other questions on Facebook, drop those in the comments. I'll hit Zoom questions next. Jerry is part Scottish as well. That's awesome. Nano says, at what point is one considered far from the concentration camp? In your view, will there ever be a way to get rid of them to begin with? So far from the concentration camp, Nano is saying, at what point do I have enough passive income where I know I'm never going to have to go back to financial slavery? And that's our equation. When I have enough passive income that exceeds my expenses, 40% savings rate, and my taxes, that's the point where I'm far enough that I'll never go back. Okay. Now, there always will be bad guys. Right, to answer Nano's question, like we'll never get rid of central banks, we'll never get rid of Wall Street, we'll never get rid of these institutions, but we can educate people on what's happening. That's one of my big missions. I want to get enough of my clients, financially free, accredited, where we can actually open up funds. My clients will own funds where people can invest with them, and I'll help run, the organization and stuff. But it gives everyone a opportunity outside of Wall Street. Right? Because Wall Street, people think it's the only choice. So we're never going to get rid of them, but we can highlight how bad it really is and show a better option. And if we show enough people a better option, eventually word gets out. Just like any great service or any great product or any great company, more and more people start using it and less people use the alternative. So again, it'll never go away. Unfortunately, there will always be suppressive people and groups, but it doesn't mean we can't fight it, and it doesn't mean we can't win. Just like with Independence Day in 1776, Great Britain didn't go away. The United States just convinced enough colonists and patriots that we're not going to use them anymore. And enough people fought that we actually got that. Now, Great Britain still was there. They still had all of their rules, laws, suppressiveness to the British citizens and anyone that lived over there or at the time in Canada. But we didn't because we had enough people basically that got out of that. So that would be my answer there. Let me check Facebook one more time. Marcy says, I just added direct sales activewear to my fitness business and have made over $1,000 just talking and drop shipping. I saw that, Marcy. That's awesome. So Marcy owns a fitness business. And so she's saying she added a new product line. She doesn't have to, it's fitness wear. So she's not manufacturing it. She's not putting labels on the product. She's not shipping it. She's just introducing people to the product. That's great. I think in fitness, you can do that with supplements. You can do that with so many other things too. And that's kind of the idea behind it. Josu says, during your journey, how much of it was mindset and how much was action? So that's a really good question, Josu. we've all heard of the book Think and Grow Rich. And I think, I never actually finished that book because I got halfway through and I was like, there's no way this could be how things work. Because it's very like, just think it and it'll happen. And what I realized is that most of the stuff that I do, my mind doesn't believe. We've all been there, right? Even with working out, it's a great example. My mind might not believe that I have a six pack or I'm going to. I might have doubts. I might have doubts and I have to go to the gym anyways. And I have to go to the gym and do it enough times until I prove to my mind, look, we're seeing results, right? So there's something to be said for mindset, but the mindset is less feel good, visualize. Like for me anyways, like it was not any of that stuff. It was freaking mental toughness. Like when I did bodybuilding, I would get freaking like mentally, I would have to screw with myself to get underneath a 500-pound bar and sit down on the floor 5 times. Like that was the mindset I had with success was I'm gonna have doubts. Okay, I'm gonna have my ups and downs, but at the end of the day, I still have to freaking do the actions. And so instead of think and grow rich, I think it's do, and eventually your think will catch up, then you'll grow rich, right? But you have to just take the initiative to persist until the thoughts are there, instead of let me position mindset and all of this stuff and figure it all out and make it perfect, then take action. I think a lot of people do that and just never take the action. Because at the end of the day, I can walk on coals if I want to. It doesn't mean I'm going to be good at business or finance. It just means that I can psych myself up and walk on coals. Good. So I think that's all the questions we have, guys. I truly want to wish you all a happy Independence Day. Again, like commemorate, remember, acknowledge what's been done, but freaking take action. Like we're not independent. Most of us watching, we're not actually free. Financially speaking, we're not going to get into politics and conspiracies, but financially speaking, most of us are not actually free. So acknowledge it and also realize like I have a lot of work to do and I have enough time. I have a lot of time left on earth. I might as well be doing something, right? So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap up. Make sure if this helped you, share it, send it to somebody, share it on your page, get it out there. We do these every single Friday. I don't charge a dime for these courses. And I want everyone to see these and enjoy them. If you watched tonight and you want more information, you can get a 2-week trial to Wealth Dynamics University. Go to membership.jerryfetta.com. If you want to learn more about the Sacred Account, you can go to sacredaccount.com as well. You can also get a free copy of my book like Josu did. Go to jerryfetta.com. I appreciate everyone. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. Have a great 4th of July. I'll talk to y'all next week. All right, Zoom, I'm going to tune out. I'll see you guys next week.